Hey everybody, good evening to you. It's Sunday, 6:30 p.m. Mountain Time. Today is May 12th. I'm in my basement again. I'm headed to Boise early tomorrow morning. I wanted to spend a little bit more time at home today. It's Mother's Day. Hope you had a great Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all of you moms out there watching. I understand if you're not watching tonight, spend time with your family, but if not, glad you're here. And to all the women in our lives who may not necessarily be like biological mothers, but who still take time to care for others and mother the rest of us. I have my, of course, wonderful biological mother and my wonderful wife, and there's so many other mom-like figures in my life. But happy Mother's Day to all of you. Hope you had a relaxing day. We had a good weekend. We had a busy weekend. Yesterday morning was we did a yard sale. The community where we live does a yard sale every year, and this year they're doing it over 2 weekends. So yesterday was the first day, and then next Saturday is the second. And we went straight from a yard sale over to some soccer games for our kids. And then we had, what else did we do? We had lunch together and worked on a couple of projects. And then, we had a good day today. I grilled out barbecue. Unfortunately, Erica is sick. She's felt nauseous all day, and so she won't be joining me tonight. I apologize, but maybe she'll make an appearance, but I doubt it. She's been in bed since we got home. It might be a migraine or something. But anyway, I hope you had a good Mother's Day. What'd you do? Comment below. I also went over to the newsroom briefly and saw some wonderful viewers from Australia who came to America. They've been here for 3 weeks, touring around. They were at the trial on Friday, and they drove out here. They were headed up to Rexburg to see Chad Daybell's home, and then I think they were taken off over to Ketchum area, and they were so great to talk with them. I lived in Australia for a couple of years, so we had that connection. All right, we've got a lot to talk about tonight. Here is what the topic is, the James and Elena story. Don't worry, we're not going to go too deep. I'll just say that, We'll talk about some of the stuff that was said in court on Friday, and then we'll talk about what we can also expect this coming up week. We're going into week 6 of trial, actual trial. I believe it's week 7 with jury selection. And I think maybe the prosecution might rest later this week. Don't hold me to that. But it feels like that might be happening, or next week. And then we have Chad Daybell's defense. We'll see what John Pryor does with his defense. And then, of course, the jury will deliberate. So I don't think we'll have a sentence, or I don't think we'll have a verdict by Memorial Day, which I went into the trial originally thinking that as it gets closer, we'll have to maybe do a guessing sort of game. We did that last year with Lori's sentence, and a few of you got it right on. Okay, so on the stand on Friday, we had Nicole Heidemann from the FBI. She's the analyst who went through the technical, a lot of the technical type stuff, the stuff that was on Lori's iCloud account, the Lori for Styles account. And she talked about how a couple of interesting things that she found on the account. One is that Chad went by aliases, Raphael and James. Those were his names. That there was a lot of talk about having a wedding on a Tuesday. And the color green was really important. And we've talked about the malachite in the past, the stone that really is important to Chad and Lori, and that they're seen in those malachite rings. And those were things that were on there. Some of the new stuff that we may not have heard before is there was a document called the Presiding Councils of Archangels. And James and Raphael, James/Raphael were listed on there. Elena and Angel Lily were also on there as the spouse of James and Raphael. So, there was some list of all these people that were on there. I think Noah was on there, Noah's in the ark, I believe. Some other leaders were on there. And lo and behold, there was talk about having a wedding on a Tuesday while Lori and Chad got married on Tuesday, November the 5th of 2019. Nicole Heidemann was able to find evidence of weddings being searched for, of malachite being searched for as early as May. There were attempts from Lori's account to purchase malachite wedding rings as early as August 13th of 2019. So a little over a month from when Charles was shot, way before Tammy Daybell died. Lori was trying to purchase some rings. They ended up, some of the orders fell through, and then she was finally able to obtain them. She also visited a website requesting a wedding on the beach, on a Hawaii beach, for November 5th, 2019, the day they got married. That request was made on October 30th of 2019. So there was a bunch of research going into this wedding. And this is the document, or this is the photo that the jury saw. You see that wedding pictures there on your left. You can't really tell on those photos on your right, but one of them was Lori's ring and one of them was Chad, or at least those were the rings that were ordered on the Amazon accounts that ended up being worn on their fingers, and they got that nice close-up shot for their wedding day with those rings. Sorry, taking a drink there. So, of course, there's all this stuff in the clouds, these searches that are done, that the wedding was being pre-planned, the beach outfits, the rings, the Google searches online, the angel talk of the angels blessing this wedding. And then there was some temple visits to the temple long before the spouses were dead. The original spouses, Charles and Tammy. And we've talked about this before, but basically, as Latter-day Saints will go to their bishop, their leader of their congregation, and get a recommend every 2 years, where they, tell the bishop that they're asked a certain number of questions. Everyone's asked the same questions. You can find them online. And then at the end, the bishop will give the person a recommend, a pass, like a card. And when you go into the temple, you scan your card, and then you can go and do sealings, which we talked about before, where when you get married, you are sealed. The sealer, like that's the position, they have the husband and wife kneel across an altar and covenant or promise to, love each other forever, even after this life. So you are sealed together for time and eternity. Well, you do that with your living spouse. However, if people have died and we never had a chance to be sealed, if like you were a Latter-day Saint and your great-great-great-grandparents didn't have a chance to be sealed, you could go to the temple on behalf of them and be sealed in their place. And Latter-day Saints believe that in the eternities, in the heavens, in wherever our loved ones go when they die, that sealing is bound there in heaven too and here. So with that background, we don't know or have not heard the specifics about Chad and Lori going into the temple to be sealed. But if the authorities there at the temple knew that both of their spouses were still alive, they wouldn't let them do that. And it appears that they may have gone and maybe had other names that they told the temple. I don't know. I don't want to speculate on that. But what we do know is they went to the temple. I believe it was at least 3 times. They had a chart showing every time their temple recommends at the temple were scanned when they walked inside. They went to temples in Texas, Arizona, Idaho, Idaho Falls, again, several times up until the time that they actually got married on a beach. Not in a temple, but on a beach. So here is a little bit about what Nicole Heidemann said about them going to the temple.
When you look on here, again, and I think this depicts when Charles Vallow passed away, were there temple visits where Chad and Lori were both at the temple prior to Charles passing?
Yes.
And how many visits did they have at the temple prior to his passing?
3.
In relation to that first visit, was there anything that stood out about that one to you?
Yes, in a story, so that temple visit corroborates some information, some evidence in a story where Chad and Lori, or James and Elena, are sealed in mid-November 2018 in the temple.
And when we talk about the story, what story are you referencing?
It's a story that law enforcement has termed the James and Elena story, just for ease of reference. It's a story of James and Elena and how they meet and the initial relationship.
And so there was indication that James and Elena were at a temple around that same time.
Correct, yes.
And then in relation to that April 27th visit, can you see which temple they were at depicted there?
Yeah, the Houston, Texas temple.
Was there something about that particular one that caught your attention in relation to the investigation?
Yes, and there was an email sent from a KK Walker email account that was created by Lori requesting Chad visit or come to Houston to speak at a children's camp in Houston on April 27th, 2019.
And when you're looking at these temple visits, do you know how the visits are logged?
It's my understanding that there are access or cards that they scan that is unique to each individual, and it captures the date and time of the scannings.
And you were reviewing the records of those scannings?
That's correct, yes.
And with these first three, were the scans of Lori and Chad's cards relatively close together?
Yes.
And when I say relatively close, could you give an approximation?
Within seconds to a minute or two.
Okay, so they're going to the temple. They're scanning in within minutes of each other. And that kind of laid the foundation for what was next, in the testimony of Nicole Heidemann. We know Chad wrote books, 24 or so. This is a book, though, that was never published, that we're going to talk about here, as she's going to testify of in a minute, the James and Elena story. Instead, it was a series of text messages that were sent from Chad, from what we understand, from Chad to Lori over a series of days. And while this book wasn't published, I have some books here that were sent to me. I need a drink. I promise I only cough when I do this show because I'm talking by myself for an hour. So here is one that really caught my eye. I got an email a couple of weeks ago from one of you saying that you found these books, I don't remember where, in an attic or something, and you asked if I would be interested in having them, and I said yes, I would. And so I got back to my office yesterday and found these. And what was fascinating to me is what was inside. So this is an errand for Emma, Chad Guy Daybell. This one was published in 1999, the year I graduated high school. And look who it's for. To Tammy, my wife and best friend, her inspired ideas and suggestions made this book possible. So here is the interesting thing. Who this book is to. I hope it catches it. Come on. There we go. I hope it focuses. Shoot, I want you to see his handwriting. Okay, maybe. There we go. To Mom and Dad. Thank you for everything you given me throughout my life. I am so grateful. You are my parents. I hope you enjoy the book. With love, Chad. So this is apparently a book that he gave to his parents on February 9th, 1999. That's the date. And there's his handwriting right there. Again, it says, to Mom and Dad, thank you for everything you've given me throughout my life. I am so grateful you are my parents. I hope you enjoy the book. With love, Chad. The author section says, Chad G. Daybell lives in Springville, Utah with his wife, Tammy, and their 4 children. He graduated from BYU with a bachelor's degree in journalism, where he served as the Daily Universe's city editor. He spent 3 years as a copy editor at the Standard Examiner in Ogden, Utah, before accepting employment in Springville. He served an LDS mission among the Spanish-speaking people of New Jersey. He enjoys hiking with his sons and dancing with his wife and daughters. So interesting, interesting book here, and interesting that somehow the book he apparently signed for his mom and dad ended up out of state in someone's attic or at Goodwill. I don't remember exactly where you found them. And to the viewer that sent these, I apologize. I don't remember the specific details. But so there's an errand for Emma. And this one is Doug's Dilemma, the second book of the Emma trilogy. And this one, Doug Dalton was overjoyed when his sister Emma returned safely from the past, and she told him of her experiences. Doug was secretly glad he didn't have to face such obstacles. Now, as he begins his LDS mission near New York City, he's certain his only challenge will be to survive the exciting streets of the East Coast. He should have known better. Volume 2 of the Emma trilogy follows Doug's incredible journey from modern-day missionary to American soldier in World War II, where he must save his great-grandfather's life in order to preserve the family line. So this one is also signed. And it says, let's see if it can pick it up. Maybe it can't. There we go. Best wishes in all you do, Chad Daybell. And this one has the photo and a longer bio. And it's made out to my parents and grandparents who have given much for their country and religion. And this one was copyrighted in 2000, so a year after that other one. Anyway, there you go. There is the interesting books from Chad. Okay, so that's just two of the books. I don't know if I maybe have seen those early on, but I now have copies for myself. The book though that we're talking about tonight is the James and Elena story, which was not published. This was the one that went back and forth with Chad to Lori, and there are some similarities in what was written to a popular LDS play musical that we'll talk about in just a second. But first, let's talk about James and Elena, how they met. Now, what Lindsay Blake asked Miss Heidemann to do is to read parts of the novel and then compare it to what was happening in Chad and Lori's life. So even though you will hear James and Elena in some of these clips, it really is Chad and Lori, of course, and they're comparing between what's happening in real life and what Chad said was happening between these James and Elena characters. Here is the first part on how they met, and listen and think, this sounds familiar to what other witnesses have testified on.
Friday morning, October 26th, driving south on the freeway, a voice said, "You will meet an extraordinary woman today who will change your life forever." This was shocking since such a thing seemed very unlikely at this conference. It is actually a very detailed story that began long ago on another world, and I will cover that part as I go along and the characters figure things out. But on the morning of October 26th, James arrived in St. George, still a bit baffled by the message he had received. He unloaded his books and set up his table, then joined the organizers for dinner in the main room. He saw his friend MG, who had been so helpful to him when he spoke in Mesa that July. MG introduced James to her friend Elena.
And I'm going to stop you there for a moment. As you look through that, and if we look at the exhibit on the screen, was there something about that first part that caught your attention in relation to what may have been going on in Chad and Lori's lives?
On October 26th, 2018, Chad Daybell was listed as a speaker at a Preparing a People conference in St. George, Utah, between October 26th and 27th. Additionally, we have Melanie Gibb, or MG, we believe in this instance, confirmed that she was the one that introduced Chad and Lori as their mutual friend at this conference. And then on October 30th, 2018, Melanie Gibb texted that below the photo to a group text, including Lori Vallow that was captured in an iCloud account.
All right, so there's the similarities. They meet. James and Elena happen to meet at a conference. MG, Melanie Gibbs, sets up the books. You know how it went. And Chad is writing this story after the fact, after he's met Lori, and sending it to her on text. Okay, the next clip, pay attention to the verbiage that Chad uses. Many of you picked it up. I did not until many of you emailed, and then I did a little research and found out that some of these words, if you are familiar with LDS, like I said, musicals or plays from the 1980s, 90s, you might recognize.
He had heard that voice before and seen that smile before. He felt they had even talked like this before. But who could be certain when?
Okay, so a lot of you are like, well, what does that mean? Well, there was a play called Saturday's Warrior that came out in, man, I don't even know. And I guess it was a play and then it turned into a movie. And there's a song in there that many of you pointed out to me called The Circle of Our Love. And I'm going to show you the lyrics, the beginning of the song. I'll make this bigger. I've seen that smile somewhere before. I've heard that voice before. It seems we've talked like this before. Sometime, who can remember when? But if I knew you then, it's strange I can't remember. Those are the parts that basically verbatim what James said to Elena. I've seen that smile somewhere before. I've heard that voice before. It seems we've talked like this before. But if I knew you then, it's strange I can't remember. Many of you picked up on that. Saturday's Warrior. Many of you are going to wonder what that's. The musical tells the story of a group of children who were born into a Latter-day Saint family after making various promises in the premortal life or life before this life. Two of the children, Jimmy and Julie, encounter personal struggles that help them rediscover and fulfill their foreordained missions. And it looks like, and it's an LDS play by non-official sources with LDS themes designed to entertain, not a deep doctrinal dive. So, sorry, went down that path because so many of you have pointed it out to me saying, go listen to Saturday's Warrior because that will sound familiar to you. And sure enough, those are the lyrics, those are the words, the writings that Chad used for when he communicated, or James used to communicate with Elena. Okay. Then there's more about their love for each other. And again, they're setting this up to show the jury who's never heard this before. And by the way, if you want to read the entire thing, we have it on our website, eastidahonews.com. You can read through the James and Elena romance novel. But here's a little bit more of what they said about their love.
I must clarify that James is a very difficult person to get information from. He has been blessed with great knowledge, but 99% of the people he knows do not realize that.
And then if you will skip the next couple sentences and pick up with he knew, she, and read to the end of that paragraph.
He knew she was one of the very few people on earth he could trust. James's spirit was so excited at this revelation that he shattered a thick veil that had been placed between these two souls during their mortal lives. The thick veil had been placed because of the unique, unparalleled love James and Elena had shared in previous lifetimes. That veil had prevented them from finding each other until this appointed day that would be remembered throughout the heavens as the true beginning of a spectacular mission that would save millions of souls and defeat the forces of darkness.
Was there something about this particular section of the story that stood out to you?
I believe the thing that stuck out the most was their spectacular mission, and then the concept of darkness. The light and dark was a concept that came up pretty frequently in the investigation.
And did you also see in there reference to James and Elena having shared previous lifetimes together
Yes.
or shared love in a previous lifetime?
Yes.
Very similar to what Chad is telling Lori. We go on to learn that James, after he met Elena, went home and Google searched everything he could find about Elena, but there was not much on the internet. Well, guess what? Google searches on Chad's computer show he did the same thing about Lori Vallow the day that he met her. And I don't know if he was able to find anything, but it mirrored, again, what the novel said. Now we get into a little racy stuff. Don't worry, it's not too racy, but it's obviously obvious that there were some feelings there. And remember, all of this is sent long before Tammy Daybell is dead. Here is another part of the novel.
They were both aroused, but knew there were limitations on what could occur that night. But they kissed for nearly an hour and pressed against each other tightly.
And then if you skip down about 3 lines up from the bottom, starting with they knew, if you would read to the bottom into the record.
They knew they would see each other again in the morning, but the separation seemed too long. But they knew that the long wait to find their eternal match had come to an end, and James was overjoyed beyond description. James and Elena had agreed to visit the temple the following morning.
The
And
phrase,
in your review of things,
1 minute.
were you aware if there was something that happened with Chad and Lori that would correspond with this?
At the time of this James and Elena story, this would have been in parts we haven't read in. It was in November during a Preparing a People conference, which was on November 16th, 2019. And the temple records, they visit the temple in Arizona, also on November 16th, 2019.
And if we look back to the exhibit that's being published, 184G, before we move on from this, when we talk about the renewed earth, were you aware whether Chad wrote books?
He did, yes.
And is this one of the books that he had written?
Yes.
All right, there we go. So that talks about them, again, more parallels from the book to their life. Then we learn a little bit about when James goes and stays at Elena's house when he visits a conference. Remember how Chad stayed at Lori's house like a month after they had met in St. George? There was another conference in Mesa in Arizona, and Lori invited a bunch of people to stay at her house. We know what witnesses have said, that they went on a walk together. They played the basketball outside together. Zulema said that. Chad taught these women there at the house. But we might have some insight into what happened after everyone went to bed that we had not heard before. Again, Tammy's still alive. This is several months before she dies. Charles is still alive. Charles is out of town. And this is what happens with James and Elena during that stay in the fictional book.
They were both aroused, but knew there were limits. But during James's latest mission, his wife had died back in Jerusalem. He was unsure what was next for him. Suddenly, Jesus appeared to him as he walked along and told James that he would become the bishop of Jerusalem and that he should marry his niece, Elena. James's attitude quickly brightened. There was something very special about Elena.
Okay, I'm going to pause there. Sorry, that was the wrong clip. And the other one I must have mixed up. But basically, Elena came to James's bedroom the night that James stayed the night at Elena's house. And they knew that there were boundaries, but she visited the bedroom anyway. Then this next clip that I played for you, I want you to listen to again, because apparently Elena is Jesus's niece. Listen to that and the assignment James is given from Jesus.
But during James's latest mission, his wife had died back in Jerusalem. He was unsure what was next for him. Suddenly, Jesus appeared to him as he walked along and told James that he would become the bishop of Jerusalem and that he should marry his niece, Elena. James's attitude quickly brightened. There was something very special about Elena, and he knew they would be very compatible in every way.
And then if you go on to the next page 33, would you start with the Savior down to the sentence ending in instantly awakened and read that into the record?
The Savior then told them there was no reason to wait, especially with James's new calling as bishop. Jesus invited them to kneel across from each other. He then sealed them together for time and eternity. Both James and Elena were shocked at how quickly everything had taken place, but as the sealing was performed, it was as if their eternal bond was revealed. True love immediately blossomed, and their physical desire for each other was instantly awakened.
What, if anything, about those passages stood out to you?
We have the sealing again. This is in Jerusalem time, so this is a prior life for James and Elena they were sealed. So it's this concept of the multiple lives, them being married, and it being blessed by Jesus. So those concepts. They were shocked at how quickly everything had taken place. And the true love, physical desire was instantly awakened. So it's the same sort of prior marriages, prior relationships.
Then court dismissed after that part. So starting tomorrow, we're going to hear more from the romance novel, the comparisons between the novel and the real life. And then I anticipate this next week, we have heard that the prosecution plans to recall Doug Hart. He's the FBI guy who went through the Lori for Styles and the Lolly Time iCloud accounts. He will likely testify at that. We haven't heard the storm brought into this trial yet, but I imagine that could be coming this week. And then maybe another, I don't know, if we have 4 or 5 days this week, you could see 5 to 10 witnesses, maybe more, maybe less. But we have heard from a lot of people. I mean, at last count, it was 60 witnesses that we've heard from. And then once that happens, prosecution rests, defense takes some time. John Pryor has said that Chad's children, at least 3 of them, will be called to testify. He's got a couple of other expert witnesses. I anticipate his defense could be a week, maybe 2, and then the jury deliberates. So we are past the halfway point, in my opinion, but not quite in the final stretch that might be coming at the end of this week. I, on Friday night, forgot to show some wonderful pictures of the Douglas family. This is Samantha and Tammy and their 2 brothers from years ago as adorable little children. I was thinking about them a lot of this weekend because, Samantha and her husband Jason testified on Friday. And then here is Samantha with her sister at one of their favorite places, the happiest place on earth, Disneyland. They were raised near there. They loved to go back there. I know Samantha to this day. They go often with their family. And you want to know one other thing why Samantha's cool? Because she likes Coca-Cola. And, that's my drink of choice too. So tonight we honor them. We honor their family. We honor JJ and Tylee and all of the other families. And I will be taking off for Boise early in the morning. I'll be at the courthouse ready to go tomorrow with live updates. Here's how you can find those updates. We have them. We have the live feed starting tomorrow at around 8:15 a.m. We'll start it up on eastidahonews.com. Court begins at 8:30. We love it when you tune in and you let us know where you're watching from. I know many of you have become friends in the comment system. There's comment section. Peggy does a good job interacting with you, trying to keep the trolls out. I'll occasionally pop in and say hi if I have a minute or two. I'm busy doing the live written updates all day from inside the courtroom. So I'm doing that and tweeting. And then, of course, we do Courtroom Insider every night of the week at 6:30. And we have all the videos, including the witnesses that you may have missed. If you don't have time to watch the whole day, you can go to our YouTube and watch one witness at a time and listen to what they have to say. So that's what we have there. I do want to show you this photo that I took this afternoon of my new friends from Australia that stopped by. They live on the Sunshine Coast. Let me make this big so that you can see it. Oh my gosh. Full screen. There we go. This is the couple. Let me get rid of that. If you were in line on Friday at court, John and Kaz from the Sunshine Coast, they stopped in and brought me some Australian chocolates. It is amazing to me how many of you watch from all over the world. Like, all over the world. It is mind-blowing. I was talking to my mom this afternoon when she's like, I read your comments, and I'm like, excuse me, how many people watch? I got an email from a woman in Israel just 3 days ago saying she watches. It's just mind-blowing, and I can't thank you enough. John is a dentist, and Cause works with the elderly in Australia. So it's great to have you all visit. And they're going back down under with some East Idaho News shirts. Which, an update, if you ordered some shirts, the 2,000 shirts that we sold, they're supposed to come in this week. I think on Tuesday, we're going to get them in our newsroom, and then our team's going to have a party. They're so excited to do this, to literally, they are, I'm not joking, to package up all the shirts, get them out to you. Hopefully, everybody has their shirt within 2 weeks. By the time we have a verdict, I'm hoping you all have your shirts, and then I want you to send me, I'm hoping long before then, I want you to send me pictures of you in your East Idaho News. Keep my mugshot off East Idaho News. And you can wear it with pride. Okay. Thank you all. Let me go to your questions and your shout-outs. Misty from Sam's Club. Oh, yeah. Misty. I'm a regular at Sam's Club. I go in like right at 8 when they open just to grab stuff. And I did this weekend with my daughter. And Misty, thanks for watching. And always scanning my receipts so diligently when I leave. Brooklyn and her mom-in-law Diane watch me every night. Thank you, Brooklyn and Diane. Carolyn Innes, Jeanette Parasco, Mike Walters, Mike Burrell. Hi, Mike. How are you? Diana McQuarrie, this is your first Mother's Day without your mom. Oh, I'm sorry, Diana. Well, I hope that it was okay and that you're spending some time tonight here, and we're sending you all our love. And I know your mom is too. Mary Trotter, Taylor Swift. Taylor, hey, thanks for watching. Good seeing ya. Well, invite us to your show, okay? We'd love to come. Catherine Nelson, that'd be the ultimate Mother's Day surprise for Erica. Can you imagine? Megan Sleminski, Jane Llewellyn, Laverta Ward, Beth Newton, Elena from Ontario. Hi, Elena. Monica Garrett, Dolores Patrick. Hi, guys. Ladies. Haiti Fullard, Sandra Reynolds, and Valerie Yeager. Thanks. Thank you all for watching. Okay, let me get to some of your questions. Okay, Nate. Someone asked in last week's Courtroom Insider if inmates can communicate. Inmates in Idaho who are married or who are family can communicate, and there's a form they have to fill out in order to do so. I've even seen married co-defendants after their conviction get approved, but the law can use what they write as evidence. Interesting. Okay, thank you. So it sounds like once inmates who are married can write back and forth to each other. Judge Boyce did clarify several months ago there was not a no contact order between Chad and Lori. But whether the mail was getting in, whether the attorney stopped it, I don't know all of those details. Sounds like, though, once they're both, if they're both found guilty, if Chad's found guilty and they're both serving time in prison, they might be able to write back and forth to each other. But whatever they say can be used as evidence. Nicole, can someone explain why the judge asks if the witness coming to the stand has watched the trial, and does this apply to all witnesses or just some? Good question, Nicole. The subpoena that is sent out to the people, the witnesses, tells them not to watch or read about the trial. They don't want their testimony influenced by anyone. Because sometimes if you watch the trial and you have a set of versions, or you watch anything and you watch 60 other people testify, your version could change. And our mind plays silly tricks on us that, wait, did I really see that or did I hear that? I mean, I do it with this case all the time. I'm like, did I hear that? Did I see it? I don't remember. So that's why they're told. It does not apply to expert witnesses, like witnesses that are there, like the medical examiners, the people that are experts in their fields, that are there as experts. It often doesn't apply to them, and it doesn't apply to actual like victims. Victims in Idaho have rights, a lot of rights. So if my wife was the victim of a horrible crime and died, and I was going to be a witness, I could still sit in there every day because I'm a direct victim of her. That's a bad example of her death or whatnot. So that's why, like Kay Woodcock's in the room every day. Samantha Gwillem on Friday was able to stay in there. Jason, he's the brother-in-law. But other witnesses have to leave. They can't be in there before they testify. Does that make sense? The judge can decide if there's ever like any gray room, like, well, are they technically a victim? Like, is a cousin? Does it go that far out? The judge can ultimately make that call. One thing I can't stop wondering, this is from Joshua, is why Alex Cox bought so many guns during the last few months of his life. Even being a protector for Lori doesn't justify purchasing 40 to 50 guns. Do you think they may have been planning a much larger scale zombie killing operation? Or perhaps they thought they might need an arsenal for self-defense for future trouble? Why 45 to 50 guns? Well, that's a good question, Joshua. Of course, I can't speculate on whether they were planning a mass attack. We haven't heard any evidence of that, about, some horrible killing spree or whatnot. It may have been that, Alex felt his job as the protector was to be ready. And so he took out that loan and he went and bought as much as he could and practiced. He went to the shooting target range and he was getting ready for whatever might come along. So I don't know. There's been no evidence that we've heard of anywhere that they were planning a mass shooting or something like that. But it is a little curious as to why he had 49 guns. Ivy asks, did Chad and Lori actually get sealed together in the temple before his wife passed away? How could they possibly be sealed together? Did a sealer actually seal them? We talked about that a minute ago, Ivy. I don't know if they actually, how that sealing thing happened. I believe in one record, Lori wrote that the angel Moroni from the Book of Mormon sealed the two of them. So they may have just snuck into a room and knelt down across from each other without an official sealer there. We don't know those details. But one day I'll ask Lori and Chad if they'll tell me, if they'll talk to me. Hi, Nate. I'm wondering why Mr. Pryor is always asking witnesses if Rob Wood was on the scene or present during interviews. Is there something wrong with him being present for these things? Good question, Mandy. I don't think there's anything wrong. I think he's trying to say that Rob may have influenced witness testimony. But I can tell you, I used to live in Virginia, in Richmond. There was a lot of crime. There was some months, all I covered was crime. Like every night at 11, I was live on the scene of a different shooting. And I saw, they call them in Virginia, Commonwealth's attorneys, which are like the prosecutors, but the Commonwealth's attorney, I saw them at scenes all the time. They know that it's going to be their case. They would respond with the police. I saw the police chief at scenes. I saw the mayor at scenes often. Sometimes the mayor would hold a news conference. There was one horrific time that an 8-year-old was killed. He saw a man raping his sister and tried to confront the man, and the man killed him. It was a horrific crime, and everybody was there. I mean, everybody was there. We were live on the air, and of course the Commonwealth's attorney was there, the prosecutor. So I think Pryor is just, it's not illegal. As far as I know, it's not illegal. He's just trying to, I think, stir it up, like, why would the prosecutor get there? I don't know if the jurors are making that connection. And the prosecutors have followed up on cross by saying, or on redirect by saying, did your testimony change at all? No, it didn't. And the prosecutors meet with their witnesses before they testify to make sure, here's what you can expect. And the defense will do the exact same thing. When John Pryor calls his witnesses, guaranteed he will meet with them before they testify to make sure to kind of guide them, like give short answers, only answer what you're asked. Don't elaborate, don't tell story, just straight to the point. Patricia asks if Judge Boyce was the same judge that signed off on the warrants. I think we talked about this the other night, Patricia. I think I may have read your question at that point. Oh, maybe not. If not, you asked, wonder how long he's been affected by all of this himself. It was a magistrate judge that would have signed off on the warrants in Idaho, but Judge Boyce has been handling the district judge. So in Idaho, there's the magistrate court, which is everything that isn't a felony, everything below $1,000. If you're charged with a felony, you start there, and then the case advances to the district court if there's enough probable cause to have the case advance. And that's where Judge Boyce is a district judge, and he has been on this since 2020. So he's been on this 4 years, I'm sure. And he has seen stuff none of us have, other than the prosecutors. Lori's pre-sentence investigation report that we'll never see, he read it all. He sees all the evidence. He sees all the reports. He saw all of Lori Vallow's mental reports from the mental hospital. He sees all that. He sees a lot more than us. I'm sure it's affected him. And I know that counseling is available for jurors when this is over. And I'm sure the prosecutor could get it through the state and whatnot if they wanted it. I'm sure the judge could too, because, how could he not be affected by it? Were Tammy's bed sheets and pillows tested for Chad's DNA? I don't know. They weren't. I don't know. Chad's DNA would have been all over his pillows and bed sheets. He sleeps there. My DNA is going to be all over my bed. It's going to be all over my clothes. So even if they found the DNA, if they did test it, it wouldn't have been anything. Now, had they tested it and Alex Cox's DNA was on the bed, that would have been interesting. Or Lori Vallow's, that would have been interesting. Or if Chad Daybell's DNA was on the scene of the kids, we know that sort of stuff, that didn't happen. That would have been interesting. Robbie asked, does the legal system allow or provide counselors for the jury to talk to during the several weeks of trial? This seems like really heavy stuff, especially as it involves 2 kids. Robbie, I don't know if they do it during the actual trial, but I know at the end services are available. At least they were for Lori Vallow's trial. And I do know that several jurors took the opportunity to get counseling, and some are still getting counseling from Lori Vallow's hearing. And yes, it is very, very heavy stuff. You think about this, and I was talking to my mom today, because she's like, how do you handle all this horrible, depressing stuff? And I've learned about this, as have you, if you followed my reporting, for 4 years. It's come in. We learn this, we learn this, we learn this, we learn this gradually. And now it's all compacted into days and weeks. These jurors who've never heard anything, it's like, boom, a semi coming at them with all this information. And it's got to just be like, whoa. So I can see how it can be definitely much more impactful having it hit all at once. After Tammy was exhumed, was she reburied in Springville? Ainsley asks. Is it business as usual, or is it ceremonial at all? There wasn't any ceremony. She was exhumed, taken to the ME's office. An autopsy was done. She was back in the ground a few hours later. That was it. They didn't tell a lot of people. Word got out, but they didn't tell a lot of people, and no ceremony or anything. Why do both prosecutors and defense call the same witness? Do they each get a chance at direct and then cross depending on whose turn it is during trial? Yeah, exactly. They do. So if it's my witness and I'm the prosecutor, I get to go first. Defense gets to go. I get to have cross. When defense goes, same thing. Defense gets to call their witness. Prosecutor can then cross or get cross, and then defense can do it. They each have it. And defense can call. He said that he's probably going to call some of the officers and detectives that were already called. So, yeah, they can definitely do that. Chancho asks, anyone else get enraged with the commercial ads? I listen to it on my earbuds while I work, and the ads are so much louder than the trial. Why the ads? Chancho, I'm sorry about that one. The volume is kind of the court system, we're able to tweak it a little bit. But two, we don't control when the ads roll, but in order to run a business, run a newsroom, we have to have ads playing somewhere. So that happens on YouTube and I believe on Facebook if you're watching. But I believe that after 5 seconds, you can hit skip. Whereas if you were watching on TV, you'd have like 3 minutes of commercial. We do carry it nonstop, uninterrupted, where I know on television, they'll go like for 15 minutes and then go to a 4-minute break and then start up. So I apologize that you don't like the ads. We, again, I mean, I'm a journalist. I'm not a businessman, but we do have to support East Idaho News. Someone at the grocery store yesterday said, how do you guys make a living? And I'm like, well, we rely on ads. It really is the local advertisers who help us have a business, who help us bring you the news. We don't charge for our news. I've said that before. We do have a subscriber option on YouTube if you're watching, but that's free. And all we want you to do is subscribe to our channel so that you can get alerts when we're live. But on our news, anyone can read it anytime. And we don't have a paywall, and you don't have to put in your email, none of that. If you do want to donate, we are so thankful for your donations. I promise you we love them and they do stay with our newsroom. Many of you were shocked that we're not a TV station and we're not a radio station or a newspaper. We're just an online newsroom with local people in a smaller community in Idaho that has now reached the world. So thank you. And Chancho, I don't know what to say about the ads, and I'm sorry. I'm really sorry that your earbuds go crazy. I'll talk with our Jordan tomorrow and just see about maybe leveling out the volume. You know, that's how it is though. Even on TV, the ads come on sometimes and they're booming loud, even at the movie theater. Texas Brand, guess it's a dumb question, but what does vanilla mean? Not light or dark, or is it another word for someone being a simple person? I think what Chad meant by that, and that was in reference to Jason Gawillam taking the stand and saying that when asked about his relationship with Tammy, Chad said it was vanilla. It was kind of vanilla, meaning not adventuresome, plain, standard, nothing exciting. It wasn't like Rocky Road, the ice cream. I'm thinking vanilla ice cream. Things were kind of blah. And here comes Lori, who's like orange sherbet with M&Ms and chocolate chips and marshmallows and all sorts of stuff. And whoa, vanilla to that. That's how I interpreted it. I don't think it had anything to do with the light or the dark scale. Do you think if the Gawillams had moved that things would have turned out differently? Melissa. Oh, man. I don't know. The Gawillams were not, I mean, they listened to it, but they weren't bought into it. And I don't know if they would have ever moved. I don't think there was anyone convincing Chad once he met Lori to slow it down. So I don't know if that would have changed differently. Lisa says, just wondering how long before anyone noticed the kids were missing if Larry and Kay weren't looking for JJ. Well, okay, so I think that Kay said the last time she spoke to JJ was in August of 2019, and the welfare check was in November, but she has told me that she repeatedly tried to get a hold of JJ through Lori, and Lori never picked up the phone and ignored texts, or she just kind of ghosted them. And then she had also tried to get a hold of police in Arizona, but didn't have any luck there. And when she found the receipt from Amazon in Charles's email on that computer, that's when she got a hold of Rexburg, because the stuff was being sent to Rexburg, the rings and whatnot. Stina, are you going to air Julie Rowe's interview? Why did you choose not to air it? I heard she told you she knew about the kids in the backyard. Please clarify. All right. If Julie Rowe told me that she knew about that the kids were in the backyard, one, why would we hide that? Two, we would have told her, we would have gone straight to the police and said, Julie Rowe said this. We didn't air the interview because we didn't necessarily solicit the interview. Julie Rowe came to our newsroom and asked to speak to me, and we did the interview on a Friday. And then on Tuesday, the kids were found. And so the news value, the news story, everything changed between when those kids were found. Everything changed on the story. and it wasn't newsworthy anymore. It wasn't relevant. That often happens in news where I'll go out and interview 10 people about a particular story and then maybe use 2 of them, or maybe I'll use all 10. I haven't really thought much of the interview again. I know I said the other night we're thinking about posting it maybe now because everyone's curious about what she had to say. And actually, I am too. I have not gone back to watch it. I need to, and I think we probably will post it. I just don't know when. And we'll post it unedited. So you can hear for yourself that Julie Rowe did not tell me that those kids were buried in Chad's backyard. I believe she told me the kids were fine. But I need to go listen. Janet says, last week we learned Chad asked a neighbor for money to bond Lori out. Why didn't Chad put his own house up for bond? I think I read that one, Janet. Or I think we've addressed that. I don't think his property was worth $1 million. He needed $1 million, and I don't think it was. And the neighbor had a lot more. So I think that's why. If Chad gets found guilty, can John Pryor tell the jury that Lori got life without parole so that Chad won't get the death penalty? Ooh, that's a good question, Carolyn. I wonder how much of that can come in during the penalty phase. I don't know. That's a great question. I will send that to someone who might know, and then I will hopefully have an answer for you tomorrow. Lee says, I've watched your Hawaii video a lot. Are you as shocked as I am that the video wasn't Exhibit 1 in the prosecution's case against Lori, and it doesn't appear it will be used in Chad's case either? Maybe I'm wrong, but that video screams guilt more than anything. Good question. I don't know, Lee. I don't know what it would take for them to admit that. If they did admit the video, I don't know if I would have to take the stand, which I would not want to do. I want to report the news, not be in the trial. And if I would have to verify that that was me and verify that it wasn't edited, I can see why a court might be concerned if media is brought in, because we do edit stuff for clarity and for length. That was not edited. That encounter was not edited at all. But I would probably have to be called to testify that I indeed was the one, or someone from our team, and I didn't want to do it. I have talked to jurors in the Lori case who didn't know about the video, but after the trial they went and watched it and were like, what? They should have shown that. But I'm not offended, believe me. They also haven't shown the video from the storage units. They didn't show that in Lori's thing, which we have, and I know they have, but and I don't know if it'll come up in Chad's, the fact that they were moving stuff in and out. It is really hard to see in that video without zooming in or enhancing the video, and they can't really do that, because then the defense could say, well, you altered the video. There could be a lot of questions with it. So I think that they feel a bit safer if they stick straight to the stuff that they have. Is the temple where church is held? Kelly asks. No, it's not. There are church buildings that you go and worship in on Sundays. And then the temple is where you go any other day of the week it's closed on Sundays, but you go and you can, like I said, do some of those types of services that were mentioned, like the sealings and whatnot. That's just like an additional type thing. Anyone can go into the church, and you have to be a member of the church to have a recommend. However, my friends John and Kaz were asking me this morning about the temple before the church dedicates them, like before they have a special dedicatory session where members go and then they dedicate the building. Anyone can go. Anyone can walk through and see what they do there. I've read malachite can be deadly. Have you? I've read that, Catherine. I don't know much more about that. Believe it or not, I find out there's so many things, especially in this case, so many rabbit holes that I could spend every minute of every day researching everything. I could spend 5 weeks researching malachite. But when I hear stuff like that it's deadly and whatnot, I come home and I don't want to research malachite. I want to mow the lawn or do something else. But many of you have sent me emails saying malachite is deadly, and I've heard that. Chad said he killed a raccoon with a gun. Martha, has the gun been brought in as an exhibit, and has law enforcement or forensic testified about it? Oh, good question. No, we have not heard about a gun being used to shoot the raccoon. Not yet. I heard about the 18 tools, but not about the gun. Yeah, that's a good question. Also, can you clarify, does LDS use essential oils as part of their religion? Not as part of religion, but I think that a lot of people use them. We have a couple of essential oils actually at our house that if I get sick or whatever, and I have to turn on a vaporizer or a humidifier, I'll put a drop or two in, but that's about it. I think some people use them for cooking and stuff, but it's not part of the LDS faith. When did Chad and Lori make reservations for their wedding? Oh, we talked about that tonight. I believe it was October the 30th of 2019. They booked the wedding. And the person that took the wedding I spoke with, I think when I was in Hawaii or after. No, it was after. It was after the kids were found. And she was so distraught over this, that she had officiated the wedding that their company had. She was like beside herself, just so upset. And I don't blame her, but I just remember this was just crushing to her that she had participated or, done this wedding, her company. Is it really such a big deal to not have a husband's name on a headstone in the LDS community? Oh, I don't know if it's a big deal, but when you're still married and your wife suddenly dies and she's 49, and as the witness testified the other day, when you're big into family history, genealogy type work, which the Daybells were, and you go to, a lot of the time, as she said, you go to the cemeteries and you look at people's names and birth dates and death dates and stuff like that. I mentioned earlier the ceilings with the grandparents and whatnot. It kind of is a big deal that he didn't want to be on there. I want to be on my wife's headstone. I want her to be on mine. I mean, that is symbolic. You spent your life with them. So the fact that Chad said, I don't put me on the headstone is quite interesting. A couple more. Greg and Marcia in Utah. Will you hi, thank you for watching, Greg and Marcia. I love you too. Apparently they love me, Courtroom Insider, and 7 Questions with Emmy. Andrea and Jessica are also fans. Thank you that she wrote me. You're getting ready when you were in Europe, you listened on your vacation. Well, see what I mean about worldwide? That's just amazing. Okay, a couple more and then I'll let you go. I gotta go pack and head to Boise. Are you coming to the trial this week? Please say hi if you are. Shane, shout out to you. Jolyn Howard, Fiona, thank you. Aaron Brown, thank you all so much. Erica is not pregnant. Apparently the commenters are going, you all are going crazy that she's pregnant. She's not. I can confirm that without a doubt. She's just sick. We had the family had the stomach bug last week. Our son Everett had it on Monday, and he was the lead in the class play. I told you about that. And he had to get to school to be the lead, and he made it, and he didn't throw up. And then 2 days later, our youngest started throwing up, and he had it for a day. And then last night, Emmy felt nauseous. She didn't throw up. Praying I don't get it. So I think Erica just has it. But no, there will be no new Eatons joining us anytime soon. So thank you. All right, everybody. Mothers, thank you for watching. Shout out to my mom, Alana. She's probably not watching. She is. I'm proud, but my mom, she's not really into crime. She says that this case just gives her nightmares and she doesn't really think about it or want to think about it. And so that's fine. And to Erica and to my mother-in-law, Kathy, who might be watching, she follows me more. When I was dating Erica, even before I started dating Erica, her parents would watch the channel that I was on in Virginia. So they kind of knew me already through the TV. And I knew I loved my mother-in-law because we went to King's Dominion in Richmond before Erica and I were even dating. And I went on a roller coaster with my mother-in-law, just the two of us. Like Erica wouldn't go. So I have a good mother-in-law. I have good in-laws. And I have good viewers. Thank you all for watching. Headed off to Boise. If you haven't, go ahead and give me a like or a follow on Facebook. There's my Instagram and my X and my East Idaho News. And I know I've said this before, but many of you have asked, how do you follow the live written updates from court during the day. If you don't want to go on X, if you don't want to go on Twitter, this is where you go, because I know it can be kind of confusing on Twitter. They get lost. Like I post them in chronological order, but sometimes if you're not on the right feed, they don't pop up. You can't find them. I get it. So on East Idaho News, what I do, here's our main page. Right at the top, this box is always here during the trial. Local or latest updates and video. Click on that right here. Read live updates. Bing. Then all over here, you'll see Courtroom Insiders. And over here, you'll see the live updates. So you can click here tomorrow morning, and this is from Friday. The most recent is at the top, the latest or the earlier stuff's at the bottom. So if at the end of the day you want to get caught up, go all the way to the bottom, and you can see I put a timestamp, 8:15, 8:29, and you can just read up. And then if you're on this page, you're going to have to hit refresh if you want it to update. It does not automatically update, because if we had it automatically update, you'd get really annoyed because you'd be in the middle of reading something and then your sentence would disappear. So some of you have emailed and been like, it's 10 o'clock. It's 8. There's been no more updates since 8:30. Well, that's because you have to hit refresh for updates. Okay? Makes sense? I hope it makes sense. Hope that, you'll tune in. Thank you for watching. Have a good weekend. See you tomorrow. Boise, 6:30. I'll be back there. Court starts at 8:30. Happy Mother's Day, everybody.